This week on Shift Points, we lower the front end of Dad's 55 Chevrolet truck. Alright guys, I have lied just a little bit. I said the next time you'd see this truck that you would see it at the drag strip, probably. Luckily I said probably because you're going to see it one more time at least before that happens. So you guys know Dad's history on trucks, how I like trucks to set and how I like cars to set is really low, and for them to have a good rate to them. This truck is pretty good, but we've looked at it and looked at it, especially from the side view, which I'll show you guys here in a minute, and we've decided it needs to come down about an inch, maybe just a little bit more than an inch here in the front. So the back is good, but we want to bring it down just a little in the front. So to do that, what we'll do is we've got a set of Heights drop spindles that we're going to put on this thing. They're 2-inch drop spindles. We're going to swap the ones out that are on the truck now, put those in, and then work with some spring spacers to get this exactly how we want it. We'll get into all of that a little later on in the video, of course, but I wanted to talk about that to begin with, that the whole purpose of this video will be getting this front end down, basically for appearances, but because it's just what we like and what we want it to be. So let's pull it over here on a side view. We'll take a few measurements so that we get a good comparison between the how it is now versus what it's going to be when we get the spindles in. So here's a good side shot of the truck here. If you remember, we took great pains and took a lot of time to get these running boards and the bed spaced to where the bed, the cab, and the running boards were all running parallel with each other. If you see a lot of these old trucks like this, you'll see the front of the bed is downhill compared to the cab especially, so you get kind of this angle looking deal. So the cab will be like this, bed will be running downhill like this. This is exaggerated, of course, but we took pains and put spacers under the front of this bed to get it spaced up, and we actually ended up moving the back of the running boards down and got all of that running parallel with each other. So right now this truck, the bed, the running board, and if you put a angle finder on the door itself here, up here at the window sill where there's a straight line, all of them are running at 1 degree downhill toward the front. But like I said, we're going to make that little change here. You can see here that there's basically, you can see almost the entire top of the tire here looking at this fender well opening. And basically we need that to come down, like I said, about an inch. So what we're going to do, we'll come in here. There's a little bit of a difference between the front, well there's actually a big difference between the front fender well openings and the rear ones. The rear ones have like a true arch to them, almost a circle, where this has more of a rectangular shape here at the top. But anyway, just for reference so that we've got an idea, we'll measure from the ground to this bottom lip of the fender well on both sides, get a measurement so that we know exactly how much we brought it down. But at the end of the day, that's basically just used to make sure we get both sides the same. This is a visual thing, so you want to make sure it's down where you want it. Of course, the numbers will match that, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that this thing is dropped some, and it's going to make a pretty big difference in how the truck is, where it's kind of running, where I would say basically level now. We're going to get that drop in the front and get the rake that we want. So we always, when we're doing this, Dad has lowered probably hundreds of trucks at this point, honestly. And basically what we do is just kind of try and catch it right near the center of the wheel. Like I said, go from the ground, try and get a straight line up and get to that opening in the fender well. And from here, it looks like it's about 25 1/4 on this side, I would say. And then if we go over to the other side,
3/16.
25 3/16. So within a 1/16 of an inch between the two sides. And like I said, that'll let us know how it does whenever we put these spindles on, exactly how much it came down. So basically, let's call it 25 1/4 here on this, which is actually a little surprising. Dad usually has the left side of the truck or car slightly higher, because when you sit down in it, it will lower on that side from where you're driving it, so it kind of evens out. So this truck does have 4,000 miles on it, like I said, and the driver's side was actually about an 1/8 inch higher than the passenger side, and it's just settled out to be just about even at this point. So that what I was saying was that we keep that driver's side a little higher. We did do that. We've just had some settle at this point. Haven't been driving it a ton this year as much as we wanted, but we've got some things coming up with it. One, of course, being that we're going to take this thing on the Southeast Street and Yeet drag and drive event here in November. So the 6th, I believe, to the 9th or 10th. This thing, we're going to take it, we're going to go and drive it. We start at Shadyside and we kind of make a tour of kind of the Southeast. Shadyside, Carolina Motorplex, I'm missing another one in South Carolina, Mooresville, and then finish back down at Shadyside. So that's the plan for this truck. The class that we're going to run is basically a it's a consistency class. So it doesn't, you set your time, and then so on the first day of it, I think it's Thursday, we'll set a time, and then a goal is to try and keep that exact same time over each time that you make a pass. So each time slip that you turn in, it's all about consistency. So that's where this truck fits, because it's not nothing crazy fast. It's not like any sort of like there'll be some really fast cars there, cars and trucks, I'm sure. But for us, we've been wanting to do a drag and drive event for so long, and now this opportunity kind of came up. It worked out well, and I think it fits this. It's going to work out good with it being a truck. We're going to just try and put everything that we need in the bed, take it with us, no trailer or anything, and then this will be a really good kind of first test, I would say, to kind of see what the flow of a drag and drive event is going to be, and that's going to be really cool with this. So we want this thing to be exactly how we really want it to be, which is one reason why we're getting this front end lowered as we go along here. So the first thing we do before we can get started on this thing, we got to get the front end taken apart. Alright, these spindles did come unpainted, so we got to get them painted. But first, before then, I want Dad to talk you through the differences between the spindles that we pulled off and the spindle that we're going to replace it with. So let's get over here and check that out.
Well, the obvious difference in these spindles is the spindle pin itself. If you look at the height, these are sitting on the lower control arm, or the lower control arm ball joint bosses. And you can see the difference in the height between here and here, and here and here. This pin is 2 inches higher in relation to this pin, which that moves the wheel tire caliper rotor up 2 inches, which lowers the truck 2 inches. The other difference is we're going to find out. We're going to set this thing back up, and if you've watched the alignment deal we did on this before, I'm going to do that same thing again with these spindles to see what the differences are, if any, between those two spindles. The steering arm's in the same position. These steering arms right here are looks to me like theoretically in the same position. This steering arm is about the same position with the steering arm on the 1-inch spindle. If we just put these spindles on, it would lower the truck exactly 2 inches. I don't want to lower the truck 2 inches. I don't want to go that far with it. So what we're going to end up doing, this is the pad that goes on top of the springs. It goes in the upper control arm mount. This goes up in that pocket. The top of the spring sits here. Well, we're going from this to this, and you can see the difference in the thickness. And what this is going to do is push the spring down, which pushes the lower control arm down, which actually raises the truck up. This is supposed to be from heights a 1-inch spacer. This if you just put this in like it is right now, it would raise the truck 1 inch. Well, when we take this out, go with this, my thinking is it's going to make about 450 thousandths difference as far as how low the lower control arm is going to go. So if you put this in, it's going to raise the truck up supposedly about 3/4 of an inch. This is going to lower the truck about 1.25 inches. Now we'll find out if those dimensions work out like I've got it figured, but that's what we're trying to achieve is lower the truck about 1.25 inches.
So basically the spindle is going to drop it 2 inches, And then with that, we'll raise it back up 3/4 of an inch, giving us a delta basically of 1.25 inches.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the goal.
Perfect. Like I told you guys, we got to throw some paint on these. I already got them taped up and ready to go. Get some paint on them, and we'll be ready to go ahead and start putting this thing back together. And check, well, first I'll check the alignment, then get it put back together. All right, painted these spindles yesterday. Went ahead and let them dry overnight. They turned out really nice. So again, these are the 2-inch drop ones. What we're gonna do now, Dad mentioned earlier, we need to understand how the 2-inch drop on the spindle and the spacer is going to affect our alignment that we have on this truck. So I'm gonna let Dad basically tell you the whole deal on it, because it's, yeah, because that's his, that's his thing. Basically what we have set up right now, he built these stiff knees, and he uses these to simulate ride height whenever he's assembling these Heights front suspensions, because he's done a lot of them. But basically, how it sits right now, this is our old spindle. This is the stock height spindle, and then he has that stiff knee in there also. So what this is simulating is how the truck would be setting at ride height right here on the jack stand. So this has the suspension, the spindle, and the control arms in the same position they would be as if the truck was sitting on the ground with a wheel and tire. So we're going to take some measurements of this, center line of the spindle to the ground, and a few other things, check the angle on the control arm, check and see what it is now, and then see what it does whenever we put the 2-inch drop spindle in here also. So that will tell us if or how much of an adjustment we need to make. So that's going to tell us or give us a good idea, first off, of how much it's going to lower it with that spacer in there. He made some spacers to go in those stiff knees that simulate the big spacer that we're going to put in the spring. So basically we'll understand exactly how much is going to drop the truck, which is nice, and then also if it's going to change our alignment in any way that we need to go in here and make some adjustments to make sure everything stays good. Because we noted yesterday when we pulled these wheels and tires off, you can see there is no irregular wear to these tires. They're wearing super evenly across. Even though they only have about 4,000 miles on them, they're wearing super evenly across. And a huge influence on that, of course, is the alignment. So we don't want to mess that up. So that's why we're taking these precautions and checking all that. So the first thing, like I said, we're going to measure is from the center of the spindle down to the ground. And this is on the stock height spindle. And it looks like it is dead on 25 inches. All right, so on these lower control arms, you basically want them running straight whenever it's at level. When it's at ride height. Yeah, running level when it's at ride height. And you can look here, appears to be maybe 1 degree uphill.
To the outside?
Yeah, to the outside.
Okay.
So now we can go ahead and check the other spindle. So now we went ahead and pulled this stiff knee out, and you can see kind of how it works. This guy just bolts right in place of where the shock is, and like I said, just simulates ride height. Dad made this spacer right here yesterday, and that is to make up the difference in what the spring spacer is going to do. We're assuming it's about 3/4 of an inch. I think that's what he made this.
Well, we took the original spring pad out. That measured 300 thousandths. The new spring pad we're putting in is 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah.
So I made this 450 thousandths.
The difference between the two of them.
Yeah, that's 300 and 450 is 750. So that should, if we've done our measurements correctly, that should put this lower control arm to the height that it will be when we put the spring and the upper spacer in it that we're going to use this time.
Yeah. So now we can go ahead and bolt that guy back in and put our new spindle in. And then we can take those same measurements again. All right, so for like a middle step here, we put the stiff knee in with the spacer and then measured to the center of the spindle again so that we'd understand exactly how much our spacer that we made, if it was doing the inch that the spacer from Heights is supposed to do. And you can see right there to the center of the spindle is 24 inches, which means it lowered the spindle 1 inch, which would in effect have raised the truck an inch, which is what we would expect. That would, the truck being raised an inch, we're going to put the 2-inch lowering spindles on so that we'll get kind of a delta of an inch lower truck than what it was at stock height.
It should go to 26 inches.
Right, so it should, yeah, that means, yeah, exactly. So once we put the drop spindle in, this spindle height should go to 26 inches, yeah, giving us that 1 inch
It's kind of
drop.
confusing because when the spindle pin goes up, the truck goes down.
Right.
It's a little bit, or it is for me, kind of hard to...
It's easy to get it mixed up,
Yes,
get it backwards.
It's easy, yes, it is. So when that spindle pin goes to 26 inches, that truck will be 1 inch lower than it was when we started.
Right. So we went ahead and got that new spindle in. Again, Stephanie has the spacer at the top of it, new spindle in, and now we measure this, and we expect it to be 26 inches from the center of the spindle to the floor. 26 and a eighth.
Probably a 16th from where I'm sitting.
Right, so pretty much exactly what we expect there. So that's a good thing.
Yep.
So I'll say it one more time. That 26 inch is 1 inch. The spindle is 1 inch higher than where it was stock. Therefore, we're going to lower the truck 1 inch, which is exactly what was the whole purpose of this deal from the beginning. Now let's check the measurement of the control arm and see what if that changed any. So we had effectively a 2-degree change from 1 degree down uphill to the outside. It's now 1 degree downhill to the outside.
It's down 1 degree from level?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just a 2-degree change.
Yeah.
That's about what we was expecting.
Yep. Alright, so we've been doing some checking on the toe after we put the new spindles in, so everything else has lined up really well. But after some checking, there is a difference in the casting on where the arms, where the rack and pinion attach. They are different. The ones on the new ones are in more, which means that they had to be brought out more, which means it has a significant amount of toe out on the truck right now. It's about 1.5 inches or so, maybe just a hair more actually. So it was a pretty drastic difference between it, meaning that the front of the wheels and tires in the front are out like this and the back are in like this. This is of course exaggerated, but that's what we're gonna have to do now. So now we're gonna project a line here. You can see Dad's already working on it. So how we do this, so we don't have to try and keep up with any turns or anything like that. He's set up back here. We've got a piece of angle that's exactly the same distance from the front and back of the rear tire. We know that rear axle is in there square. And then he has a laser that he lays on that angle and projects that laser up here to the front. With that laser, since we know that it is square, we know that that's a straight line with the rear end, we can set the front and rear measurement up here using the brake rotor that's there and the piece of angle that's on the brake rotor. We can set that distance so that we know that this side will turn the wheel until we get it to be the same square front and rear on this rotor. Now let me pull you in here and I'll show you. Alright, let me see if I can show you what we've done. So that direction right there, the laser is projecting down this way. You can see it there on my hand. So we've got this marked. We've got our angle in the center line of the spindle and the rotor, and we've got equal length marks on each side of this angle. So if we go right here to that mark, run our tape measure out 90 degrees, so you can actually see right there that laser is on the 13-inch mark, and that is, looking at it from the camera, it's actually 13 1/16 if you look at it up close. So you say that is there. Now if we move back here, same distance. See the laser there on the 13 mark? It is the same 13 1/16. So now we know that this rotor is perfectly in line, square with the rear end. Now we can do all of our adjustment on one side, make sure that we get everything how we want it. Alright, so we've made our adjustment, and basically what we're going to do now, we'll run this. The same angle is over on the other side as well. We'll run the tape measure to that side. And it doesn't really matter where you measure to on this bar, distance-wise, this way it matters. But it's as long as it's the same point, whether it's on the inside of this or the outside of the angle or whichever one, as long as it's the same on both sides, we're just getting a delta. And if you look at this, to that line right there is 53 5/8. And now we're going to come over here on the back side and do it again. 53 3/4, which means total toe in is 1/8 of an inch. We put a 16th in on that side over there, and now theoretically we have exactly a 16th in on this side, 1/8 inch total toe in. We're good. At right height, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we still have the stiff knees in here, so there's no droop in this or anything like that. So this is how it would be like it was sitting going down the road, which is exactly what you've got to check. So now at this point, everything should be ready to go back together. And right there it is. If we get down here, you can definitely see it lowered it. It's got that rake that we were looking for out of it. It made a change. Looks good.
Yes.
Alright, go ahead and measure it. Alright, for reference, I'll have to go back and watch and remember what it was, but
25.
now it's 24 to that fender wheel right there, which best we can figure, that's exactly 1 inch. We picked up an additional degree of rake, that's 2 degrees. Got the front end of the truck down, but it definitely helped the looks. It changed it a bunch, it looks good. It needed that for sure. Alright guys, that's gonna do us for this week. Got Dad's truck lowered 1 inch in the front. Really made a big difference in it, got some rake into it, looks really nice. It's gonna look really good going down the road especially. So hopefully we'll take this thing out here in a few days. I'll get some shorts of it while we're going down the road maybe. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's really important. It gets us in front of as many people as possible so we can keep doing this. And also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, all those social medias. We're there putting up stuff every single day. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week.